No, because we have to put the microphone there. So when we go out, we have to wait till it's finished, and then we can take it away. Otherwise, take it away doing it in the middle of the interview. And so,
I see. Yeah.
So, I mean, we cannot leave earlier to Tsinghua.
No.
If there was a possibility.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So we just wait.
Because you're sharing the time with other people.
Yeah, okay. Then it's okay. So we just wait till if we finish, we can get all this back and then okay.
No.
After the interview, we just wait.
Yeah, she has a I don't think she will be doing anything.
Good morning. Hey, how are you? Good. How was life? Rested? Absolutely. I mean, it's very relaxing. And you? How long have you been living here? Oh, since 2008. Okay.
I was planning to send an email. So there she will actually coordinate.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I already we are already on WeChat.
Anyway, we need a schedule. We don't have to schedule.
Sorry, do you want to visit here?
No problem.
Right, nice to meet you.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Are you based here?
No, I've been with the vice president.
Cool. Also journalist?
No, I work with her,
great.
in her company.
Yeah.
And you?
Peter, I work at AP.
Yeah. No, I'm like a PR.
Okay.
Schedule a meeting to coordinate this with you later this week. I'll use
There was something in the body.
Coffee's here? What's the rest of it?
I hope it will be interesting.
I'm sorry, I'm Peter from AP.
Yeah, but by the way, it's a hotel.
Are you based here?
Yes.
I think it's a big room. It should be a big room, and I think there's some only two people will be Chinese.
So then maybe that's the problem.
So I will put you in touch. Try to see who is going from the delegation, and then put in touch with that person, and the media contact is completely right.
Oh, really? Are you
sending the document? Using the library to send it.
So we had to record it every 1 hour or 30 minutes. Yeah, so 30 to 40
Yeah, but
minutes.
he will speak only
I did
at 9:10. So you should get listening to speech. He will speak at 9:10.
Hello, good morning.
That's nice. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming for the briefing with Vice President of the European Commission, Vera Jourova. So we start with opening remarks by the Vice President, and then the floor is yours. You can ask questions. Everything is, of course, on the record. Vice President, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for coming to this press briefing after a short visit of Beijing on the topic of digital transformation and digital wealth, if I simplify that. I was last time in China in 2017 in my previous role as a Justice Commissioner to hold a consumer dialogue, and now as a Vice President responsible also for digital policy, I was glad to lead for the first time face-to-face digital dialogue with China. The previous one was online 3 years ago. Background of this visit is the State of the Union speech, which President Ursula von der Leyen gave last week. As she said, our strategy is to de-risk and not decouple. It is important that we keep channels of communication open, including in areas where we disagree. This is why during her visit to China last April, President von der Leyen and President Xi agreed to relaunch the 3 EU-China high-level dialogues in order to seek to make progress ahead of the next summit before end of this year. As you know, China is a partner, competitor and also systemic rival for Europe. We find elements of those dimensions in the digital field, with systemic rivalry having become the most prominent of the 3 in this area. Our dialogue yesterday showed its usefulness. We can make progress in areas that are mutually beneficial. First thing I want to mention is that we signed action plan on safety of products sold online. This is an important step forward to ensure European consumers enjoy the highest standards of protection when purchasing products from China through the internet. Here we see a converting interest to cooperate. We use this dialogue to candidly express our concerns where we see them, both for citizens and businesses. We discussed artificial intelligence, the acceleration of which requires a clear commitment to uphold universal human rights. In this context, I mentioned the United Nations report on the use of AI against human rights in Xinjiang, which is a source of concern for us. At the same time, as the President said at her speech, the extreme risks posed by exponential growth of AI means we will need to design effective global governance at multilateral level. As the EU, we are prioritizing the finalization of our AI Act and the G7 Hiroshima process. But we also need global outreach, and given the position of China, we still need to engage, even though our approaches are far apart. We agreed that we will both contribute to the process set out by UN Secretary General Guterres. My Chinese counterparts informed me about their domestic regulation on AI and expressed willingness to engage in multilateral fora. I will also discuss this today at the Center for AI Governance here at the university. China's continued economic success requires an attractive investment environment for foreign companies. We had a deep discussion on that issue faced by European businesses to make use of their industrial data as a result of recent Chinese regulation. The Vice Premier and I agreed to launch a mechanism to address these issues in detail, and it will be further discussed at the high-level economic dialogue when Executive Vice President Dombrovskis visits the following week. We discussed the lack of reciprocity in access to ICT standardization bodies. Whereas we have seen some progress in the last years, our companies still face roadblocks that we need to remove. Both sides committed to an open environment. I used also the dialogue to explain the EU's approach to de-risking and technology security following the adoption of our economic security strategy in June. The EU does not seek to decouple from China, but we need to improve our resilience and competitiveness by de-risking our economic interdependencies and advancing our technology security agenda in order to remain competitive and protect our essential European interests. We will continue these discussions through technical exchanges by resuming the EU-China ICT dialogue. We know that political commitments need to be translated into results on the ground, so we will be vigilant and proactive to make it happen. At the same time, our exchanges with China, including on digital policy, do not happen in a vacuum, and we need to take into account the broader context. In particular, I have stated that we consider how China interacts with Russia's war against Ukraine to be a determining factor for EU-China relations going forward. This includes, of course, aspects relating to cybersecurity and disinformation. We believe that China has a responsibility to play a constructive role in advancing a just peace based on upholding the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, and we hope to see concrete progress in that respect. On disinformation, I stressed that Russia has been actively disseminating a variety of manipulative narratives. With concern, we have noticed that several narratives are being echoed and amplified by China's official media channels. I also stressed that I count on China's cooperation in assuring that no territory is used for malicious cyber activities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I wanted to share with you at the beginning, and of course now I am fully available for your questions.
Somebody wants to ask a question?
I got one. Peter from AFP. Thank you, Madam Vice President. In March, the European Parliament instructed staff that TikTok must not be installed on devices used for work due to cybersecurity concerns. I'm just wondering if you discussed TikTok and that issue with your counterparts.
No, we did not discuss TikTok, and I expected there might be questions on this because TikTok is one of the platforms which fall under our new digital regulation, be it the Digital Services Act and Digital Markets Act as the gatekeeper. And also TikTok was subject or object of investigation done by our Data Protection Authority in Dublin, and in cooperation with other data protection authorities, that was decided to penalize TikTok for the data privacy breaches. But all that is happening on European territory, and we did not speak about it yesterday, and I was not asked about that.
I have a question. The Commission released a statement last night saying it has conveyed its concerns about the difficulties faced by EU firms in China to make use of their industrial data. Could you share more details on what concerns these firms express to their Chinese counterparts? What kinds of solutions do they see? Do they feel like China's data regulation requirements are clear enough?
Yes, it was a dominating theme when we discussed with the European Chamber of Commerce yesterday. If I simplify it a bit, it is a reaction on the new 3 laws which China adopted, which relates to data. It's cybersecurity law, data law, and the law on espionage. And what the European businesses were telling us as one man was that there are 3 concerns they have, and they asked us also to help. First thing is not very clear wording of the laws, especially missing definitions of, for instance, what's important data and what might be the difficulty which, from the perspective of the law, which the companies could be confronted with when transferring the data outside. So it's a lack of clarity, then long processes which the companies have to undergo, although there are deadlines. I think it's 45 days for one process. It lasts very often much longer time, and as we know, time is money, and also in China, I guess. And the investments of the EU companies can be endangered by these lengthy procedures. The third thing, what I understood, was unpredictability of the decisions and interpretation of the laws by the regulators. So these are 3 things: legal uncertainty given by the very rather general wording of the laws, the possible decisions of the regulators, and lengthy procedures were the 3 things which I explained to the Chinese partners. We had a very long discussion about it with Vice Premier and his ministers, and I was really glad that I had this opportunity to explain that the European companies want to be in compliance with the Chinese laws. That nobody criticizing the Chinese laws. We just want them to be clear and relatively easy to comply with. So the outcome of the discussion was that we will come back to the Chinese authorities with a proposal to create some kind of information link that will help the European businesses to understand the laws and avoid the possible lack of compliance. We offered our experts. We have for data governance and data transfers, and so the ambassador will follow that way. Vice Premier Zhang explicitly instructed the relevant ministers to be available for such closer cooperation. And due to the fact that this is a really serious topic and problem for the European companies, I guess that this will also be the topic for the discussion my colleague, Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis, will have here next week.
Anybody else?
What are the key priorities for the EU in terms of relation with China in digital policy, particularly in the areas of artificial intelligence and data governance?
I think data governance, I already mentioned that the priority is to make it possible for European business to cope with the Chinese data governance and cybersecurity laws. For digital sphere and AI, for us it's important that China moves towards the solutions under the United Nations concept, because how we see the possible development of AI, if uncontrolled or unregulated, it might create global serious problems. And that's why we need global response. At the same time, I have to stress that in our concept for the AI regulation, always first thing is human rights aspect. And here we have a very strong cooperation and very, very successful, I hope, with the G7 countries. We work with United States, United Kingdom, Japan, and European member states who are G7 countries. We work on the code of conduct for AI technologies and technologists, which might be ready by the end of this year. We also want to create some kind of universal principles which cover ethics and, again, human rights. For us, absolute priority next to human rights being projected into the functioning of the AI is full transparency, so that the people know that they read or see the production of AI, which is similar to Chinese law, by the way. There is also the marking. So we want similar thing, and also safety, transparency, safety, human rights. This is the triangle of big priorities we want to promote, and this will be also our effort on global level. In case there are common works also with China. Thank you. Sorry, I am so long. I also always want to be short, and then it spoils itself. Please.
I was just wondering, these narratives that you're saying China is pushing out on disinformation from Russia, is this internationally as well, or are you talking about just here in China? Is the Chinese media pushing out an international narrative, Russian narrative, do you think?
We saw these narratives also, the impact of these narratives coming from China on European territory. Of course, we are overflooded by Russian propaganda. It started in 2014, and the massage and effort to influence the public opinion against Ukrainians was graduating towards the day of invasion. And that's why I mentioned Russian propaganda and Russian disinformation in the context of the disinformation which was coming from China, because it was obvious the Russian-born narrative which was used.
And China was also pushing that out, the Chinese media? Into Europe as well?
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah. Just on Europe, how is the Commission going to deal with pushback from tech companies arguing they should be caught in the Digital Markets Act, just in the European context?
I would not call it pushback. Yes, European Union is a demanding territory for the global big tech, for a good reason, because the big tech grabbed too much power and did not grab adequate responsibility. That's why it was long awaited that European Union will come with the regulation which will increase the responsibility of big tech. And all the big players in this industry, most of them born in California, of course they were our partners for consultations. I remember already when we were working on GDPR, it was already in those ancient days from the perspective of digital development, which is so fast, that we were consulting, we were detecting what are the technologically possible solutions, and we were explaining why we are coming with the rules which protect individual people. It's always the same concept, that in the EU we protect individual rights of people. And that's why maybe also I received this digital agenda, because for many years I am the protector and promoter of the human rights in the Commission, and so I was very much participating in the preparation of all these regulations. These are not regulations about technologies. These are regulations about people. Be it Digital Services Act, be it Digital Markets Act, which is protecting our single market, be it GDPR, I think our concept remains very consistent and very much the same.
Just to follow up, just on that, on the AI Act, that's also taking some time to get through. What are you going to do to try to speed it up? Because the technology keeps evolving. If it takes too long, you'll have to change the Act again.
Anytime I say that we are working on future-proof legislation, my voice is a little bit shivering because we see the speed of the technological development, and it's a unique moment, and unique is maybe too optimistic. It's also a scary moment when we see that the that AI, especially the generative AI, has appeared and was developing with such a speed that the already proposed legislation was not able to catch up with it. That's why, technically speaking, we now have in legislative process the AI Act, where we are adding, at last moment, the chapter on generative AI to capture the new development. And this AI Act might be finalized in the trialogue, which is the agreement between the Parliament, Commission and the Member States by the end of this year, including the chapter on generative AI. This is what we work on now. And the second thing where it is still open is the security aspect, the traditional conflict between the right of privacy and right of security. If you want the interests of the individual and the interests of the state, speaking about it in China has a special beauty, because we want the individuals to be stronger.
I have a question about de-risking. China has kind of discredited this idea before, that it's just kind of a nice way to say decoupling. So I'm wondering, in the tech area, what does de-risking mean for you, and how do those discussions go with the Chinese?
In this area, de-risking means to know more about the plans. And here I simplified it brutally, but the discussions yesterday showed to us a lot of new aspects, more certainty for us where China is going. Digital technologies and especially AI may radically change also the global power game. That's why it's so important that we know what are the mutual plans. So de-risking means to know more about each other, and if not fully trust, then be aware and not to be surprised.
The last one?
Enough is enough.
I wanted to be generous.
Thank you.
No, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, boss. Do you think pictures of the bonsai tree is a good idea?
You're still looking for the...
I'm still looking, yes.
Okay, yeah, let's
Yeah.
I didn't see the
bonsai is right here, right in front of this room.
Okay.
And then I don't know.
Maybe the other gentleman from the...
I don't know if you...
Let me see this bonsai.
Just here to the right. To the right.
Jorge? Yes. I want to just take out the university thing and get rid of the rest.
Okay.
That's it. No, that's chips. A horrible mess in it. Let's do it in the car. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was instructed not
No.
to leave anything anywhere.
I will leave this.
Thank you for making it.
Yes, sorry, people have some with you, so I was going around.
That's all right. That's all right. I mean, we're talking with a colleague who was proficient with organizing this, who can send around the speaker for opening remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brussels, yeah, we could.
And enjoy some English.
原来好的益生菌真的可以帮助入睡。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌是国家认证 AB 克菲尔益生菌，含7种有身份证的专利活菌，能产生伽巴、色氨酸等助眠因子，难怪吃了更快入睡，也睡得更好。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌也是台湾市场上唯一添加克菲尔乳杆菌 M1 的产品。这是由台湾知名的大学季转，对季节敏感、调整体质的朋友真的是一大福音。还有这支还添加被称为超级食物的羽衣甘蓝萃取物，不少研究都指出十字花科蔬菜有助抗炎及防癌，像是羽衣甘蓝含有高量的叶黄素、贝塔胡萝卜素、维生素 K、维生素 C、叶酸等丰富营养素。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌专利制成，无塑化剂、无重金属、无人工添加物、无410项农药、无香料调味剂、无防腐剂、无色素，7大保证、7大认证，觉得好安心。每日克菲尔时刻美好 ，Good Feel Feel Good， 快点购下单！太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌。